Hello everyone and welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name's Rhiannon and today I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I plan on reading in December. I can't believe we're in the last month of the year, guys. It has flown by, and whilst I didn't really think that I'd done too well with my reading this year, I have actually surprised myself because at this current point in time, as I'm filming this video, I have read 92 books this year, and I'm fairly confident now that I can hit 100. My goal this year was 80, so I've smashed that, and yeah, I am definitely creeping closer towards the 100 books read this year mark, and it would be absolutely amazing if I could hit that. Looking at this big old stack of books, I definitely think that it is possible. These are just some books that I would like to get read before the end of the year, so I'm definitely being ambitious, but I do feel like I have a good selection of books here to read over the next 4 weeks, and hopefully I can manage to get to all of them. Because I have so many books to talk about today, I am going to try and keep the descriptions for each one short and sweet, just because I feel like this video will be way too long otherwise. So without further ado, let's dive into the books. The first book I would like to read is The Christmas Jigsaw Murders by Alexandra Benedict. This, if you couldn't tell, is a festive murder mystery book. I did read a book by this author last year, which was essentially a knockoff of Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. If I'm remembering correctly, it was called Murder on the Christmas Express. Yes, I am correct there. And whilst it was definitely a blatant rip-off, I did have a really good time reading it, and so when I saw that this author had another book coming out this year, I of course decided to pick it up. Now, I do actually own this one on my Kindle as well, and that's probably how I'm going to read it. I am also planning on starting this one on the 1st of December. I will be hosting live reading sprints for my Patreon, and I think I can smash that out there. In this one, we are following our main character Edie, and one day she receives a mysterious parcel on her doorstep. Inside are 6 pieces of a jigsaw puzzle showing part of a blood-spattered crime scene. And then there's also a message from the killer inside that says 4, maybe more people will be dead by midnight on Christmas Eve, unless you can put all the pieces together and stop me. And then Edie contacts her nephew, who is a detective inspector, and he then takes over the official investigation, but a series of cryptic clues soon have the police stumped, and as the body count rises, Edie knows that only she has the knowledge to solve the killer's murderous puzzle. This sounds amazing. I can't wait to get to it, and hopefully I enjoy it as much as I did this author's last book, if not more. The next book I have is Malice by John Gwynne. This has been on quite a few TBRs recently, and I still haven't started it. I will say though, I do have until January to read this book, so I am putting it on my December TBR in the hopes that I will actually start it, and then if it carries on over to January, then that is fine. I am reading this one as part of the Catch Up Book Club, which is a book club hosted by Becca from Becca and the Books here on YouTube, and the next series that they're tackling is of course the Faithful and the Fallen series by John Gwynne. All I know about this one is that it's an adult high fantasy which involves a war against giants. I am honestly pretty clueless, and I want it to stay that way. I want to dive into this one without having any real expectations, and that way I will hopefully be pleasantly surprised. The next book I would like to get to is Cursed Crowns by Catherine Doyle and Catherine Webber. This is the sequel to Twin Crowns, which I read last month and absolutely loved. I actually listened to the audiobook of the first one, and I definitely feel like that's the route I want to take with this one as well. It is available on Everand, and I had such a good time listening to that first story that I feel like I need the audiobook in order to carry on. But this is a YA book. I'd say it's on the older end of YA, in which we follow twin sisters Rose and Wren, who unfortunately were separated at birth, and Rose was raised in the palace because her parents were the king and queen, and she has been trained to fear witches her whole life, and she ultimately now wants to get rid of them. And then Wren, the other sister, was taken when she was born because her parents were killed, and in the middle of all the chaos of the murders, she was taken to safety and was actually raised by the witches. So we have 2 different perspectives here, both with different beliefs, and it just makes for a really interesting story, and I loved how it all came together. The ending really did break my heart though, so I am desperate to dive into the second one and find out what is going on. And then if I am able to, I would love to finish off the third book as well, but I definitely feel like that is being too ambitious there. Then we have Warrior Bronze by Michelle Paver, which is the final book in the Gods and Warrior series. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you'll know that I have slowly been making my way through this series. I can't believe I've made it to the last book, and I would like to finish it off this year, so that is why it's on this TBR. I definitely feel like this is one that's going to be very easy to fly through. I am so connected to these characters now, I'm familiar with the world, and I just want to see how it all wraps up. I read the 4th book book last month, and that actually took place in ancient Egypt, which was a different setting to the rest of the books. And yeah, that was really, really interesting. I read it in preparation for my own trip to Egypt, and the ending of that book just had me hooked. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to dive into this one and see where our characters end up. Hopefully it all works out. Michelle Paver can be a bit brutal though, so I'm a bit scared, but it is a middle grade book, and I definitely think that I will fly through this in 1 or 2 sittings. I obviously can't tell you too much about this last book, but in the first book we follow our main character Hylas, who is considered an outsider. He was abandoned by his mother alongside his sister when he was younger and was raised by a goat herd, and one day him and his sister find themselves being under attack. A group of warriors called the Crows turn up and, yeah, as I said, attack them, and in the chaos, Hylas and his sister are separated. He does manage to get to safety, but Izzy, his sister, is nowhere to be found, and so he does take it upon himself to try and find her. His quest then takes him across the hostile mountains and treacherous seas of ancient Greece, and along the way he realises why they were attacked, and that is because a prophecy has come to light that says if an outsider wields the blade of the House of Kronos, then the House of Kronos will fall. The House of Kronos is essentially the barbaric, oppressive rulers of this land, and they are in control of the Crows, who are, of course, the people who attacked Hylas. So it does all start to piece together, and Hylas does somehow end up stumbling upon this dagger, which puts a big target on his back. Saying that though, he does have some animal companions who help him along on his journey, as well as a young girl called Pyrrha, who is trying to get out of a bad situation herself. So they do decide to team up together and try to defeat the Crows. This is a great series. I would highly recommend it. I will say it can get a bit gruesome at times, so if that's something you don't like, then maybe you wouldn't enjoy this one, but I personally have a good time with it. I love Michelle Paver's writing style, and I can't believe that I will be finally finishing this series this month. The next book I would like to get to is Where the Library Hides by Isabel Ibanez. This is the sequel to What the River Knows, which again I did read last month. I read it in Egypt because our group did decide that we wanted a book to buddy read whilst we were away, and yeah, as I said, we did decide to go for What the River Knows. This is the sequel. I feel like if I don't dive into this one straight away, I never will, so that is why it's on this TBR. The ending of the first book, guys, was insane. It left us on such a cliffhanger, and I just need to find out what happens next, so I have put this one on my December TBR. In the first book we follow our main character Olivera, who one day unfortunately finds out that her mother and father have passed away whilst they were working in Egypt. All she has ever wanted is to go to Egypt with her mother and father, and with that not being a possibility anymore, she decides that she wants to take matters into her own hands and get some answers, because she's not happy with the way she was told about her mother and father's deaths, and she feels like if she goes to Egypt then she will be able to find out more about their deaths and come to terms with it. However, once she gets there, she realises that there are a lot more things at play here and that everything isn't as it seems. I really did enjoy that first book. It did take me a while to get into the story, but as soon as I did, I found myself flying through it. I also read it whilst in Egypt, which was just absolutely magical, and I'm so glad that I got to experience the story that way, because it does mention a lot of places that we had either just been or were going to go to, and yeah, it was just so cool. So I'm very excited to dive into the second book. I honestly can't remember if this is a duology or not. I guess I'll find out when I read it, but yeah, very excited to get to it, and it's one that I will definitely be reading before the end of the year. The next book I want to talk about is Legendary by Stephanie Garber. I reread Caraval last month. I had been wanting to for a while because I'd read that first book. I think I listened to the audiobook of Legendary, and then I never read the third book, and so I decided that I was going to reread it, and so I got to Caraval last month. I want to read Legendary this month, and if I could read Finale, which is the third book, then I would love to, but I doubt that that's gonna happen. As long as I get to this one though, I will be happy. I really enjoyed my reread of Caraval. I wasn't sure if I was going to because it's been quite a few years since I first read it, but it definitely held up for me. I'm so glad that I reread it, and I just feel like it's the perfect type of book to read at this point in the year. So in the first book we follow two sisters, Scarlett and Tella, and unfortunately they have a very abusive father. Scarlett is trying trying to marry a count in order to get out of this situation and to take her sister away with her. However, Tella does not want this at all. She does not want Scarlett to have to marry a count in order for them to be safe. And she also knows that the count may not be as nice as Scarlett seems to think that he is. One day though, Scarlett receives a letter from Legend, who is the founder, I guess, of Caraval, which is a magical performance of sorts in which you were able to participate in. And Scarlett has been writing to Legend every year for the last, I want to say, like 10 years, asking if she can go to Caraval and play in the game. However, she's never had a reply. That is, of course, until now. When she gets to Caraval though, she realizes that not everything is as it seems. Her sister is actually kidnapped, and it's up to her to play the game and save her sister. Along the way though, she of course faces a lot of different trials, and she ultimately has to overcome these trials, find herself, and then find her sister as well. I really loved it. It was such a magical time, and I can't wait to dive into the second book. I haven't even read the synopsis of the second book, so I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. As I said, I have listened to the audiobook of it, but I genuinely can't remember a thing, so I am diving in with no real expectations, and I am definitely excited to get to it. One that I'm less excited for is The Last Devil to Die by Richard Osman, and the only reason I'm not excited for this book is because I feel like this is going to absolutely break my heart. This is the fourth book in the Thursday Murder Club series by Richard Osman. I started this series off earlier on this year. I flew through books 1 to 3, and now I've made it up to book 4, and I've been putting it off for the longest time because I've seen people bawl their eyes out reading this book. And for those of you who don't know, in this series we follow a group of elderly main characters who at the beginning of the first book have set up a meeting once every week to discuss unsolved murder cases. They are essentially trying to work together to solve them, and it just so happens that one day someone in the community is murdered and they get involved in the police investigation and try to solve their very own murder case. We have been with these characters for 3 books up until this point, and whilst it's not been smooth sailing, we haven't had any awful things happen, but because these characters are old, I feel like we're getting to the point now where it's gonna get sad, is all I'm gonna say. I don't know if that's the case. I genuinely don't know what happens in this book, but just going off people's reactions, I feel like this is going to be devastating. I'm not quite sure if I'm ready for it, but I do have the audiobook downloaded, so I am gonna dive in, and it will be getting read in the first half of the month. So I will update you guys at some point with my thoughts on this book, but yeah, I am excited to read it because I will be all caught up with this series once I finish this one. But yeah, on the other hand, I am very scared because I feel like it's just gonna break me. And then the last 2 books I have to talk about today are Crystal Storm and Immortal Rain by Morgan Rhodes. These are books 5 and 6 in the Falling Kingdom series by this author, and I have been putting off finishing this series, guys, for months. This has definitely taken me a while to get through. I have enjoyed the books in the series. They are definitely reminiscent of the old YA books that were being released back in the day, but it is a really good, compelling YA fantasy series. I don't know why I haven't finished off this series yet. I feel like I'm just scared, but it's a series that's full of magic, it's full of betrayal. We have a large cast of characters as well, and we see them having to deal with so much conflict in this world because we do have oppressive rulers, we have a magic system, and we have a lot of people in power who are not satisfied with the power that they have, and they keep wanting more, but they don't care who they hurt to get it, and yeah, it's just an awful mess basically. I feel like I read the first book about 2 years ago now, so it has taken me a while, and I would love to finally finish off this series. So I have put books 5 and 6 on my TBR to hopefully force myself to get to them. I honestly can't even remember the synopsis of the first book in order to tell you guys what this is about, but there is a quote on the back here that says, "From an opening dripping with blood, magic and betrayal through complex interweaving plots detailing treachery, deceit and forbidden love, this novel will immediately engage readers and keep them intrigued." But yeah, we are essentially following 4 main characters who find themselves being tangled up in a set of circumstances that is far bigger than anything they could have imagined. They are essentially pawns in people's games, and we see them develop throughout this series and figure out what's going on and who they are as well and what they stand for, and ultimately decide whether they want to stand with the oppressors or stand against them. I feel like I've butchered that synopsis, but it's been that long since I read the first book, I genuinely don't know how much to say because I don't want to spoil anything. But all you need to know is that I I really have loved the books in this series so far. They are such fast reads, and yeah, I desperately need to finish off this series, which is why they're on this TBR. So there we have it, guys. These are all of the books that I plan on reading in the last month of the year. It's definitely ambitious. I'm not sure if I will manage it, but there are definitely books that I will be prioritising over others just as of now. And who knows, I might even deviate off this TBR and read some other books as well. If you have made it this far through into the video and would like to let me know that you're still here, please go ahead and leave me some Christmas emojis down in the comments. I'm so happy that Christmas is just around the corner, guys. You honestly can't believe it. It's my favourite time of year. I just feel so much joy in this season, and some Christmas emojis would definitely make me happy. I know I say it all the time, but seeing you guys comment the emoji of the video truly does mean the world to me. It blows me away that you guys watch these all the way through. So if you are still here but don't have anything in particular that you would like to say, please go ahead and comment that now. As well as that, please don't forget to click the like button if you like this video and the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content from me. But that is it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon in my next video. Goodbye!